Hey guys, Victor here, coming at you again with another deck profile, and today's focus is going to be on Floowandereeze, which, if you're bad at the game, new to the game, or you just don't want to think, is honestly going to be the perfect deck for you, as it's able to set up really easy boards and very simple combos in order to win the game extremely easily. So, with that out of the way, let's just jump straight into the video. Now, as many of you have known, Floowandereeze is pretty straightforward with the ratios, so you're not really going to see much of anything interesting, but we are playing 3 Floowandereeze Robina. You have to play 3. It adds literally any level 4 or lower wing beast from your deck to your hand. Then we play the 3 Floowandereeze Eglen. Pretty much the same as Robina, but it's for level 7 or higher wing beasts. 1 Floowandereeze toucan. This card adds back banished Floowandereeze cards to your hand. 1 Floowandereeze Stri. This is allowing you to banish 1 card from either graveyard out of yours or your opponent's. And this is pretty much the only flexible card that you can play in multiple ratios, because as the format transitions into like a more graveyard heavy focus, cards such as Floowandereeze and Stri are probably going to become more important, so you can definitely make a justification for playing more than 1, but as of right now, 1 Floowandereeze and Stri is totally fine. Then we have a bunch of tribute summons, so you're playing the 2 Floowandereeze Empen. Sometimes you can play 3, sometimes you can play 2. It's honestly up to you, but the difference is pretty much negligible if I'm being brutally honest. But what it does, it searches for any Floowandereeze spell and trap. It prevents your opponent from activating special summon monsters in attack positions effects, which, with decks like Unchained being pretty much everywhere in the format, is honestly invaluable, because that deck revolves around links, which means that their monsters are always going to be in attack position for the most part. And then if it battles, you can like banish any card out of your hand to have the monsters attack. So card's insane, but like I said, if you want to play 2, you can. If you want to play 3, that's also fine. Then to go with those, we're playing the 1 Mist Valley Apex Avian, Omni Negate, along with the 1 Raiza the Mega Monarch, which, is pretty solid, just because it allows you to loop your cards. It gets rid of key resources from your opponent's graveyard and their field, and it's just an overall, a lot of the times it just straight up ends games once it resolves. Next, we're playing 1 Simorgh Bird of Perfection. We're not playing the other Simorgh cards in the main deck. This is pretty much just here to chain block to ensure that our Floowandereeze cards don't get stopped by cards such as like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, because that card is detrimental to being able to play the game. But yeah, that's the only reason why we play that. We don't play any more than that. Next, for hand traps, we're playing 3 Dimension Shifter. Open the shifter, win the game. Seems simple enough, right? And then to go with that, only 2 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. I like the card in the current format, but I don't think it's like the end-all be-all. It's not gonna automatically win you a game unless you're playing it something like branded, but even in those situations with the Chimera stuff, they can still typically play. So while it is a very good card for what it does, it's not fantastic in the current format, I guess. And then for the final card, or final monster that we play in the deck, we'll be playing 1 DD Crow. So this card's pretty cool too. Like I said earlier, a lot of the decks right now are really graveyard reliant, and having something like DD Crow that is searchable off of Robina, so if your hand is good enough, or even if you just open Robina plus map, for example, you can get access to the DD Crow plus anything else to help ensure that your opponent's graveyard is out of, or isn't as effective as it could be. Because let's face it, you're not always going to be able to open Shifter, but you can pretty much consistently be able to get the DD Crow. So with that, that's the monster lineup, and now we can move on to the spell and trap portion of the deck. Now for the spell lineup, we're going to be starting off with the 3 of the most broken card in the deck, being Floowandereeze and the Magnificent Map. This card pretty much does everything you'd ever wanted to. It gives you an additional normal summon, it gives you access to any Floowandereeze monster in your deck, it allows you to play during your opponent's turn by normal summoning whenever they attempt to normal summon. The card just does so much, and you pretty much always want to open it as soon as possible, because it's that important to be able to actually play the game. And then to go with that, we're going to be playing 3 Floowandereeze in the Advent of Adventure. Another fantastic card, because it basically, you can banish any wing beast monster that's face up on your field or from your hand as cost, and it lets you add any Floowandereeze monster plus any Floowandereeze field spell. So that means it gives you instant access to map, but like the main advantage that comes from the Advent of Adventure is that it allows you to basically play around cards such as like Infinite Impermanence or Effect Veiler, because it gets rid of the monster that they would be targeting, which allows that effect to resolve, and it just, things spiral out of control. And then on top of that, for some reason, it gives you 500 life points. So if you do end up going to time, this is going to be basically your win condition. So, pretty good card. Next, for added consistency, we're playing 3 Pot of Duality. This deck does not special summon, so something like Pot of Duality is very much appreciated, because it's sort of just reveal the top 3 cards, add 1 card, so, really solid. And then we're also playing 2 Pot of Prosperity. Now, if you're wondering why I don't play 3, the answer is pretty simple. It's because I don't have 3. I only have the 2, so we only play the 2. But if you have the 3rd, by all means play that. And if you don't want to play Prosperity or you can't afford it, Pot of Extravagance is honestly another fantastic substitution because drawing those 2 cards can a lot of the times just straight up win you the game as well. So whatever choices you choose to play for the pot, they're both fine. Whether it's Extrav or Prosperity, it's honestly just up to you. But I think Prosperity is slightly better just because it gives you access to a potential, to more potential cards because it allows you to reveal 6 and then add the best one. But, you know, it's whatever. Then we're also playing 2 Triple Tactics Thrusts. So while cards like Bestials aren't effective against us, that's perfectly fine, just because this, if we're going second, this allows us to break boards a lot more easily. And if we're going first, there's still a couple of floodgates in our deck that we can just set, such as the Harpie's Featherstorm, which can straight up just win the game, or just at least buy us a turn in order to try and win the game on our next turn. So yeah, card is honestly just insane. And then we play the 1 Triple Tactics Talent to go with it, just in case, because, you know, you're not always going to win every die roll, and being able to go thrust into talents, take, or draw 2, look at your opponent's hand, whatever, is just invaluable. And then after that, we just play a bunch of one-of spells. So you play the 1 Terraforming, the 1 Call by the Grave, and then the 1 Floowandereeze in the Unexplored Winds, which is honestly a really underrated card just because it does so much for the deck that people just don't really appreciate. So it's able to recycle your winged beast that you have in your hand in order to draw more cards. Obviously, you can't use that if you use cards such as Pot of Extravagance during that turn, but when you're like really deep into the grind game and you're trying to look for a specific card, this does help you a lot. It also helps you get rid of key cards your opponent may have, right? Because this card allows you to tribute anything that they have. So you can tribute their field spells, their back row, any floodgate monsters that they may have, whatever. So yeah, card, really nice. And that's it for the spell lineup. And we just play a couple traps, honestly, because you don't really need that many. You play the 2 Infinite Impermanence, really important in today's format, especially against Unchained, as if you're able to Infinite Impermanence their Link 2 that just recently came out, a lot of the times their turn just ends, and that allows you to win an already favorable matchup a lot more easily. And there's just like a lot of really solid matchups, especially with that, or there's just a lot of really solid matchups that Infinite Impermanence works really well against. Plus, with the resurgence of cards like Triple Tactics Talent, something like Imperm that doesn't like, you know, actually activate that is really invaluable as well. And then you play the 1 Floowandereeze in Dreaming Town. Much like Map, this allows you to play during your opponent's turn, but it has the added bonus of being able to Book of Moon everything that your opponent has on the field. And then lastly, we play the 1 Harpie's Featherstorm. You only need the 1 in the main because we play the Triple Tactics Thrust, and you pretty much just side the others when you for sure know that you're going to go first. And with that, that's the main deck, and now we can finally move on to the extra deck portion. Now, when it comes to the extra deck, let's face it, it honestly doesn't really matter what you're playing here, because a lot of the times you're just going to be banishing everything in order to fulfill your Pot of Prosperities or your Pot of Extravagances. But there are some pretty key cards that you should be playing just to, in order to be like more prepared, right? So if you're playing cards like such as Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries, you're going to want to have like key extra deck monsters that you know for sure the metagame is going to be containing, whether it's Unchained, Pearly, whatever. Just having that key extra deck monster that you can reveal and just auto win the matchup is invaluable. Then you also want cards like Relinquished Anima to help you deal with any potential monsters that your opponent gives you, or such as Destiny Hero Dark Angel, right? A really powerful monster, level 1, that prevents you from activating spells. You just link that away into Relinquished Anima, then you go about your day. Or if your only Floowandereeze card gets hit by like an Imperm, right? Say it's Robina, for example. You say, okay, no problem, whatever. You just take your Robina, link it off into Relinquished Anima, and then take another monster and try again on your next turn. Then you have Zeus for the exact same reason. You can make your own link monsters if you really want to, or if you happen to take something with like talents, you take their Xyz, you slam and attack with it, and then you overlay your Zeus on top. And, you know, it's just those types of things that you have to consider when making with your extra deck. But for the most part, it doesn't really matter, especially if you're playing extra, right? Because you're just going to be banishing randomly. But with that, that's the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!